Hi guys, and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron, and welcome back today to another video. Now I don't usually do these, usually I will be doing live streams of course. As you know, I usually do 3 live streams a week, but I thought, you know what, I'll do a video today because I want to talk about a topic that I think really needs to be spoken about, and it needs to be spoken about on behalf of, I think, every football fan in the country. Now obviously this is an Everton fan channel, and the majority of you that are going to be watching this video are going to be Everton fans, but we're actually going to talk on behalf of, I think, you know, most football fans in the country today, and we're going to talk about a topic that really needs addressing, and it needs addressing urgently, because it's getting out of control now and it's becoming a bit of a joke week in, week out, and that is VAR. And more specifically, rather than talking and going in on VAR, we're going to be talking about the level of officiating in the Premier League, in English football, and also the rule book as well, because I feel like we're being led down a wrong path here by the FA and the Premier League in blaming VAR for a lot of things that actually are the fault of the officials and the rule book in English football. And you know what, listen, since it's been implemented at the start of this Premier League season, every single week, week in, week out, we're seeing mistakes that this VAR is making. Now, we were told at the start of the season, we were told before the World Cup, when this was being introduced into football, into our lives, we were told that it was going to make football much better. It was going to, you know, correct all of the wrong decisions, and it was going to give the referees a helping hand in making sure that there were no major errors during the game of football. And since it's been implemented, I think it's, you know, you could arguably say we're seeing more errors than we ever done before, and all it's doing is highlighting those errors on a grander scale. Now, for me, the title of this video is exactly what I'm going to be talking about. VAR is not the problem. Video assistant refereeing as itself is not the issue. It's been implemented in many sports across many countries. They've got it in rugby, they've got it in cricket, and for me, we're being led down the wrong path as to believe that that in itself is the issue. The issue is VAR. You see it all over Twitter, all over social media. Whenever there's a mistake made by VAR, it's VAR shocking, get it out, it's not being implemented correctly, this, that and the other. And you can understand the frustration from fans, because when we're seeing these incidents, when we're waiting 3 minutes for a specific incident and the referees are still making a wrong decision, and when we're being left without no clue what's going on in the stadium, it's understandable that we jump to the conclusion that it's VAR's fault and VAR is the issue at hand here, when in fact it's not really, because all as VAR is, all as video assistant refereeing is exactly what it says on the tin. It's a video replay that is shown to a bunch of referees, a bunch of officials, and is being communicated through an earpiece to the official that is on the pitch. And all it is a replay that shows multiple different angles of the situation that is being pulled up by those officials and by that referee. Now, for me, we are being led down to believe that this video assistant referee, this VAR, this video is a fault for these decisions that are being made week in, week out, because we are seeing them, and it's happening for football fans across the country. It's not just happening to Everton fans, it's happening to every single football fan. There's a shocking decision pretty much every single week. Coming as an Everton fan, I've seen Everton, you know, a VAR affect Everton twice in the last 3 weeks. One against Brighton, which have now come out and said shouldn't have been a penalty, however it was given a penalty through VAR, and obviously a couple against Spurs where we should have had 2 clear penalties. One incident including VAR, the video assistant referee, the official, looking at the camera, spending over 3 minutes trying to judge a situation that for me was quite blatantly a penalty, and he still decided against it. Now, for me, like I said, we're being led down to believe that it's the video assistant referee and that's the fault. It's that video that's our fault, and that's because when you're in the stadium, the screens read VAR, no penalty, decision, no foul, no red card, and as football fans, in the heat of the moment, in all of the emotion, we look at that and we think VAR shocking, VAR's not giving this, VAR is not giving that. And like I said, just to repeat, video assistant referee, VAR, is just a video, it's just a replay of whatever incident is being pulled up, and it allows officials to be given time and be given multiple different angles, 26 angles they looked at for that penalty against Everton with the, you know, Dele Alli's handball the other week, and it still wasn't given. Now, like I said, for me as football fans in this country, we're being led down the path to believe that that is the fault, rather than the correct path, which is that the officials who are controlling VAR and who are managing VAR are massively at fault for this. It's not the fact that it's, you know, the video is showing it as a decision, is not a foul. The video doesn't give a decision. The video doesn't say that's a foul, that's not a foul, that's offside, that's not offside. It's the officials that are sitting behind the desk that we don't really hear of. We know who the VAR official is, but other than that, you know, they don't really get mentioned. Now, for me, I think there needs to be a lot of clarity in this situation, and I think it would be a lot more beneficial for football fans if the screen, instead of reading VAR decision, no penalty, it read VAR referee Anthony Taylor states no penalty penalty. VAR referee Michael Oliver states no penalty, because then fans would look at it and go, Michael Oliver's made that decision, Anthony Taylor's made that decision, why isn't that a penalty? That's their fault. Because this is exactly what the FA and the Premier League wants us to sit and believe. They want us to sit and slate VAR week in, week out and say it needs to be gone, you know, it's got no use, it's making more mistakes, it's not rectifying any mistakes, when in reality it's not VAR and it's not the video, it's the referee that is sitting behind the screen that is making those decisions. I've been calling for years and years and years, even before I started doing YouTube, even before I started doing the channel, I've been calling for ages for certain referees to be sacked and not be able to referee Premier League football because they haven't got the intelligence. And that's not a dig and that's not an insult, that's just my honest opinion. Referees like Anthony Taylor, Michael Oliver, you know, Paul Tierney, they're making mistakes week in, week out, and now it's just being clouded and it's being protected by this shield that is VAR, because all us football fans are doing now is directing their frustration towards VAR. Like I said, VAR is being implemented in multiple different sports across multiple different countries. In football, they have no issue with it. In cricket, they have no issue with it. It's a video that the referee looks at and makes a decision based off that, and that's because in sports like rugby and cricket, you can hear what the referee is saying, you can hear the thoughts of the referee, you can see the replay there in the stadium. What we've got now with football is, I had my first real experience of VAR in the stadium a couple of weeks ago when Everton played Tottenham Hotspur at Goodison Park, and obviously the Dele Alli handball was the biggest one, and you were literally sitting there for over 3 minutes looking at a screen that says VAR decision, and until the decision is made, you don't see anything. And for what we were sitting there, we were sitting looking at a screen that said VAR decision for over 3.5 minutes, and then it said no penalty. Massively frustrates the fans in the stadium. VAR, I think it's quite clear, is meant for the fans that are at home watching the game on Sky Sports or on BT, who can see all the various different angles of what's going on and why it mightn't be a foul, or why it might be a foul, why it mightn't be a red card, or why it might be a red card. And for me, it all leads into this whole football is now geared towards the fan that is sitting at home watching on television. Now, I've not got anything against the fans that are sitting at home watching on television or supporting their team through a television. No issue with that whatsoever. If you're supporting your team, you're supporting your team. But what you've got to think about is there was 40,000 fans at Goodison Park in that game, you know, on that day, who had absolutely no clue about what was going on in that moment. And for me, that isn't good enough whatsoever. It really isn't good enough. And the reason why the replays aren't shown on the screen in the stadium, the reason as to why we can't hear what the referee is saying, is because, in my opinion, they are too inept and they do not have a clue what they are doing. And this is why the FA and the Premier League are leading us down this road as to blaming this VAR and blaming this video assistant as to, you know, to being the cause of all of these massive issues that are happening week in, week out. And like I said, it's not just happening to Everton. It would be massively unfair to me if I sat here and said it's only happening to Everton and it's happened to Everton every week. It's happened to Everton a couple of times really, really seriously over the last couple of weeks. Like I said, 2 penalties against Tottenham, which were Stonewall penalties, and the penalty that was given against us for Brighton, which very clearly wasn't a penalty, and they've now come out 2-3 weeks later and said that it shouldn't have been a penalty. But it's happening to teams across the Premier League. It happened to Liverpool, to be fair to them, with the offside. It happened to, you know, Aston Villa a few weeks ago when Jack Grealish scored a perfectly good goal and it was chalked off for a stupid reason. It happened to Sheffield Wednesday with an offside as well, literally last weekend. And what we're seeing now is every single week VAR is making a massive, massive mistake. And it's not a small mistake where you look at it and you go, okay, fair enough. You can understand why some people would say that is a penalty, some people would say that's not a penalty. You can understand why some people would say that's a red card, some people would say it wasn't. It's making monumental mistakes every single week, and it's worse than it was. You know, football is worse than it was last season now, because not only are we getting the mistakes that have been consistently being made for the last 20 odd years, ever since I've been watching Everton Football Club, ever since I've been watching the Premier League and supporting, you know, Everton and watching football every single week, monumental refereeing mistakes have been made constantly, and that's why the level of officiating in this country is not good enough whatsoever. And like I said, I'm speaking on behalf of every single football fan, whether you support Burnley, Bournemouth, Sheffield United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Everton, Manchester United. I'm speaking on behalf of everybody here because it's going to affect us all at some point this season. It's going to affect us all. The issue at hand here isn't the video assistant. It isn't, you know, the fact that referees are looking at, an angle 26 times. It's the fact that those referees are unable to make the correct decision, and the rule book that they are abiding by is absolutely ridiculous. And it's about time that somebody sits down, and it's about time that somebody speaks up on this. Now, this mightn't get viewed by many people, it mightn't get seen by many people, but like I said, it's about time that we start to take this issue really, really seriously, because we're in November now, and we're quite a chunk into the Premier League season, into the 2019-20 season, and we're seeing VAR make massive mistakes week in, week out, and we're now to the point where a lot of fans are saying scrap it, it's not working, it's not being implemented correctly. And I agree, it hasn't been implemented correctly, but rather than scrapping VAR, let's scrap the people that are managing VAR, because all it is a system that shows referees a replay of a certain situation multiple times at multiple different angles. It's still those referees that are inept and unable to do their job that are making that decision. So when we're seeing VAR says no penalty, decision no penalty, it's not actually a VAR that says no penalty. Let's be a bit more specific with it. Anthony Taylor says no penalty because he is the official that is looking at that situation 26 times in the Everton case and stating that it isn't a penalty. And then fans would go, well, how was Anthony Taylor made that decision? He's a disgrace. The criticism and obviously the negativity will be directed towards the individual that is managing and that is in control of this VAR. Instead, it's getting geared towards VAR and the individual that are making these mistakes week in, week out are walking free with nobody saying anything to them. The level of officiating in this Premier League has always been shocking, and it will remain to be shocking until something is being done. VAR being implemented in the way it is not going to help that, because we're still clouding the fact that the officials are nowhere near good enough in this league. None of them are anywhere near as good as they need to be. And we're seeing that week in, week out. And instead of seeing monumental refereeing mistakes week in, week out, and it being as clear as day, all that we're seeing now is it being clouded by VAR. And fans of every single football club in the Premier League, pundits now coming out and saying VAR needs scrapping because it's not good enough, it's not working, it's not making the game better. VAR was never going to make the game any better if the people that are watching these replays, the people that are reviewing these situations, are still the same inept referees that we've had for years and years. The reason it was brought in is because the refereeing standard wasn't good enough in this league. Now, if you're bringing a system in that has to be reviewed and has to be officiated and managed by the same referees that haven't been good for a number of years, it's still not going to be good. For me, the solution to this is to bring in an independent party that controls VAR, whether that be a referee from a different league, a different country, I don't really care, but it cannot be the same referees that are refereeing Premier League games week in, week out, because they are not good enough. And that's my first point. My second point is the rule book is absolutely ridiculous. The referees and certain officials, yes, they make a lot of mistakes week in, week out, but they're also following a rule book that's an absolute joke. The offside rule now is becoming stupid. You can be offside by your toenail, by your armpit, by your fingertip. You can be offside by literally anything these days. If it's a goal scoring part of your body, which somehow they're convincing themselves an armpit is, or a shoulder is. 3 or 4 years ago, if you score with your shoulder, it'd have been given as a handball, and it'd have been given a free kick the other way. The offside rule is an absolute joke. The handball rule is massively inconsistent as well, and it's becoming a joke. We were all told at the start of this Premier League season that if you handle the ball in the opposition box, whether it's accidental, whether it's permanently, it's a penalty. And we've seen players reacting to that rule. We see Scott McTominay week in, week out for Manchester United, who holds his hands comfortably behind his back when he's in the box, because if he knows if a ball strikes his hand, whether it be on purpose or by accident, it's being given a penalty. We've watched that from week 2 or 3. I watched Manchester United and Scott McTominay was throwing his hands behind his back. But how come now, when players are handling the ball inside the box, when it's hitting their arms, when they're purposely moving towards the ball with their arms, it's not being given a penalty? And we've seen a couple of occasions, and I'm not just saying this to go at Liverpool, but Trent Alexander-Arnold should have conceded 2 penalties against Manchester City at the weekend, because twice the ball strikes his arm in the box. Now, whether it's on purpose or whether it's an accident, I'm not going to go down that route. I'm not going to go down that road and discuss that, because we could sit here and discuss it all day. It's irregardless. The rule states that if the ball hits you on the hand, whether it be accidental or on purpose, it's a penalty. So that should have been 2 penalties. The one against Everton a couple of weeks ago, like I mentioned before, the Dele Alli situation, they're having to convince themselves that these situations are not penalties. I watched Sky Sports News on Saturday, and you've got idiots like Paul Merson who are coming out and saying, well, it's not a penalty because if Yerry Mina doesn't head the ball, it doesn't hit Dele Alli's arm. Are we listening to the people that are consoling English football? Sky Sports, BT, television companies console English football. It's as clear as day. And like I said, I'm sitting here in video form now. Usually I do a live team and I'll be getting different opinions. I'm sitting here, this is raw, I've got no notes, I've had no preparation for this video. I've sat down, I've pressed record, and I'm going off the top of my mind. The people that run English football and the people that run the Premier League are the television companies. companies. It's Sky Sports News and it's BT Sport and it's any other television company that has some sort of input on the monetary value of the Premier League. Hence why players' wages are ridiculous, hence why transfer fees are ridiculous, because they're getting the money from these massive companies. So it's no coincidence that these massive companies coincidentally appear to be consoling what is happening week in, week out in the Premier League. And you've got pundits like Paul Merson coming out and trying to defend such a bad refereeing decision in that, situation with Dele Alli and Yerry Mina a couple of weeks ago, that it literally takes you back and thinks, you know what, I'm not even shocked anymore, because it all just makes sense. It really, really does make sense. The assistant referee, the video assistant referee, the official that was managing VAR on that day, looked at that situation 26 times and deemed it not a penalty. Now, for me, if you are looking at a situation from 26 different angles and you are having to take 3.5 minutes to review that situation, it very clearly isn't clear and obvious, and it very clearly states that you are looking for a reason not to give that penalty. Again, that's just something personally coming from an Everton point of view. I watch Everton week in, week out. This is an Everton fan channel. If you're watching this as a football fan from a different football club, then I'm sorry I can't go into detail on your specific situation, but I'm sure you're all sitting there going, actually, you know what, this situation happened and I can resonate with that. Why wasn't this given? Why did they look at this situation for over 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes? It obviously was they were looking for reasons to not give it. Like I said, I can only look from experience of what I've seen so far. I've seen Everton be done over by it 3 times in the last 2 weeks. And I've seen other clubs be done by it a couple of times as well, and it's becoming ridiculous now. It really, really is becoming ridiculous. Now, like I said, it's marginally better for the football fan that's sat at home watching on the television, and they're seeing that the different replays, and they're actually getting some content and some context as to why these decisions are taking so long and what the referee is looking at. The football fan in the stadium isn't getting none of that. All they're getting is the referee blowing his whistle, looking up, and all we're getting is a screen that says VAR decision, checking penalty, checking red card. Now, for the average football fan, they could have turned around and had a conversation with their friend or their family member or whoever they go to the match with. Look back at the football pitch, and all of a sudden it's checking red card, and that situation could go on for 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and they wouldn't have a clue what's being checked, whether the tackle was a tackle, whether the tackle wasn't a red card. Football is a fast-paced game and goes at an incredibly, incredibly fast speed, and it's very easy to miss certain situations. I missed the Dele Alli situation. Firstly, I didn't understand why they were checking for the penalty, and after 3.5 minutes, it got to the point where I was thinking, just get on with the game. It couldn't be that detrimental if you're taking that long. Just get on with it, scrap it. It wasn't given a penalty. The crowd erupted, and I think the crowd, whilst a lot of them might have erupted because they believed it was a penalty, I think a lot of them erupted because of how long it had taken for the decision to come to absolute nothing. And then it's even more frustrating when you see the replay after the game and you go, how was that not given? It's as clear as day. And then we're all going on Twitter. I'm the same. I'm going on Twitter and I'm blaming VAR, and I'm saying, how is VAR not given that? VAR needs to be taken out of the game. VAR isn't helping. But in reality, it's the official that are watching these replays week in, week out, that are making the same mistakes that they were making on the football pitch 2 or 3 years ago, when we collectively decided as a country that we needed an assistant refereeing to come in and to help these referees out. Now, it's not an assistant refereeing system that is coming in and helping these referees out, because it's the same referees that are managing and that are officiating this system. And like I said, the title of this video screams my opinion. We are being led down a road as to believe that VAR is the issue, and it's the video assistant that needs scrapping because it's taking too long. It's not making the right decisions. It's the referees that aren't making the right decisions. And the reason as to why we're not seeing replays on the screen, the reason as to why we're not seeing, referees mic'd up and hearing what referees have to say. If you were sitting in a football stadium, I don't care who you're aboard, if you were sitting in your home stadium and it come up on the screen, VAR checking penalty, and then you could instantly hear the referee saying, right, okay, play that over again, then you could hear the official saying, just checking one more angle, right, okay, seems like a handball, but it might deflect it, we're going to check another angle. Then you've got some context, you're sitting back and you're going, right, I understand what's going on now, let's see what decision is made. But we're not. We're being absolutely blinded. Nobody has a clue as to what is going on, and that is the massive issue for me. And the reasons to why we don't have a clue is because the referees don't have the ability to make the correct decisions, and that's being proven week in, week out. And for me, I don't necessarily think the solution is to just scrap VAR and take it out. I think the solution is to make an independent body, make an independent person manage it and referee it, rather than the same officials that are making mistakes week in, week out. The problem in English football is the level of officiating and the rule book, not the video assistant referee, and that very clearly works, like I said, in multiple different countries and in multiple different sports. Why doesn't it work in English football? I think it's a bit of a coincidence to say that it doesn't work because it's that fault. It's not. It's the fault of the officials and it's the fault of the rule book. Anyway, that's going to do it from me today. Big thanks to everybody for watching. Please do hit the like button if you have enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. Really do appreciate all of the support. Big thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.